Hey, have you heard about Anchor? You probably haven't heard about Anchor yet, so let me tell you about it. Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. You probably hear other people talk about how they make podcasts. If they say it's easy, they're crazy. All of their methods are really hard and complicated, but Anchor, super simple. First off, it's free. They have creation tools that let you make the podcast right from your phone. You don't even need a computer. This is 2019. Who uses computers anymore? Anchor distributes your podcast on all the other platforms. No need to go do all that complicated searching and hosting and posting. Hosting and posting. They do it for you. You can also make money from your podcast. Well, that's what I'm doing right now, because you're listening to this ad. They've got everything you need to make a podcast in one spot. No need to search around all over the place. No need to go to 20 different sites. Just one. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Bet you thought I was going to sing right here, didn't you?
Are you looking for the hottest news out of the obstacle racing scene? Want to stay up to date on the freshest info, the latest podiums, and hear interviews with the who's who in OCR? Well, you've come to the wrong place. Well, some of that you'll find here. But we're not the media. This is not ORM, OCM, OCRM, ORCM. This is OCR Talk.
Heyo, this is Jason Dupree.
And I'm Anna Landry.
This is episode 16 of OCR Talk. Thanks for listening in. We've got so much to talk about. You probably have missed us. And just as much as you miss us, I miss you guys too. I feel kind of sad whenever I don't get to record every week.
We don't get to record. Yeah, and I get harassed. When are y'all recording a new episode? When's the new episode coming out? Y'all gonna talk about this? Y'all gonna talk about that?
You must hear it more than I do then.
Not really, but actually, this past weekend I was at a race, and one of our listeners came up to me, and he lives in Lafayette, and I met him once at a workout before a battle race last year, and he said, "I really wish y'all would make your episodes longer because I listen to y'all whenever I run, and an hour is just not long enough."
Oh man.
I was like, that's awesome, but oh my gosh, if you only knew.
Yeah, that is really cool, and I'm sorry that we can't oblige for that, because it, our shtick has become, we're gonna be the podcast that is not gonna be consistent like some of the others.
Yeah, we're gonna leave you wanting more. Because if we were just consistent, we would just be too reliable, right? You would.
Well, we just do have too much going on, and as
life
much
happens.
as I would love that, life, man.
Life, adulting, those kinds of things.
And you make time for what's important, and I know, we do squeeze this in where we can, and because it is important to us, and it's a lot of fun, and we love the sport that much. So
yes, and we love you guys that much.
we do this for ourselves, man. But I'm glad that it's turned into we can do this for you as well. It's really cool.
Absolutely, yeah.
We got a lot of stuff to talk about, man. A lot.
You think? What was our last episode? The battle race episode.
Yeah, it was the battle recap, and so we didn't get to even talk about NORAM as a precursor,
right?
So
as a build-up.
So let's start off. I had a quick question, and I think I have a quick answer for myself, so you can answer it yourself as well. What has made you, if anything, question your goals for athletics, particularly OCR, of course?
Oh man, it's so funny you're asking me this right now, because so before we started recording, I told you that I came down with shingles after Battle OCR, and it was the most horrible thing I've ever gone through. To have chickenpox as a kid, it sucks, but then to have it again in another form as an adult, oh my gosh, it just. I was so tired and fatigued, and then I was in pain, and then I was exhausted at the end of the day because I was in so much pain. And so yeah, so I haven't been able to do as much as far as like training intensity goes or anything
Yeah.
like that. So it's been so frustrating
So
trying to
how
get
long
back
did it
into
last?
it. Luckily, I caught it pretty early, so it really only lasted like 2-3 weeks. So
2-3 weeks?
yeah, I'm still getting. I'm one of the lucky ones.
Jeez.
My mom's friend that got it, but granted he was older, but my mom's friend that got it, he dealt with it for like 3 months. So
Wow.
yeah, yeah. So luckily, I'm all clear and good to go. But yeah, just getting back into training after like an illness or anything like that, like it's so frustrating because you don't feel like you felt before you got sick or injured. And this goes for anything like an injury or a sickness. So you don't feel 100% like you did before you got sick or injured. So you're almost expecting yourself to be at that level again, but
Right.
you just aren't. Like, and I guess I'm an impatient person sometimes and I get very frustrated with myself if I'm not if I feel like I'm not performing at the level that I know I can perform at or train at or whatever. Yeah, it frustrates me to no end, and I start thinking like, what am I even doing? Like, what if this lasts forever? What if this feeling never goes away? Like, this is so frustrating. And then you start questioning like, should I really still be doing this?
Hmm.
Should I really still be, pushing myself this hard, or am I just stressing myself out? So I think that's the biggest thing with me is that I put a lot of pressure on myself, and I think that's what makes me go to that way of thinking where I just start questioning everything.
Yeah, and that's interesting that you say that because it really actually lines up with my answer too in illness. I've talked about the illness that I had this year quite a bit, and what I found is that this is a hobby. So if we stop doing it, we're gonna find some other hobby to do. Maybe we'll get into some other sport. Maybe not. Maybe it'll just be painting or something. But for myself, it really came when I felt like I went and got a stress test finally, and then they were just like, "Oh, stress test came back fine." And it's just like, well, then what the heck's wrong with me? So it really made me think, if this keeps up and I don't start to feel better, what does that mean? Should I just back off? Should I change to doing only short courses? So it really made me kind of think about that. And
Hmm.
luckily, I feel like I've been able to focus on my nutrition while I'm running, whereas in the past, I kind of run myself a little ragged and don't, go on long 16-mile runs with only goose and nothing else,
Right.
and then want to die at the end. But so I've done a few long runs since then and done a better job of feeding myself through the process, and definitely helped me out. And I think it's working because this past weekend, did NORAM and felt fine through pretty much the whole thing. As far as those issues, I can't really say I had any problems. So I'm feeling pretty confident and positive so far.
That's good.
But I think that's the thing is when that happens, what do? You gotta think. You really just gotta reflect and think about what's important. And if you can't do this, is it the end of the world? No, it's not. So
Right.
find goals elsewhere in life and move on. Come back to it if you need to. Whatever you need to do.
Yeah. It's good to have goals, but it's better to not have those goals put pressure on you so much that you're not enjoying the journey.
Right. And if you're just broken completely because you can't hit those goals, that's not very healthy either.
Yeah.
So just got to be realistic about it. We have some reviews.
Nice.
I
What a surprise.
mistakenly every time I check for reviews, I always check the website, and I didn't realize that the iTunes website
Oh.
doesn't show them all. So I had to actually log into the app because I don't have a Mac, so I actually have to log into the iTunes application and look at them there. And I saw there was, I think, 8 ratings, but 6 reviews. So we actually have 3 more reviews that we had.
Nice.
So the first one was by, I'm going to read it as Dup Mar O Nu because I think it stands for Duplessis Mark, possibly. Maybe, maybe not.
Venture to guess, but you're
Yeah.
correct.
And it's titled Just a Good Conversation About What's Happening in OCR. And he gave us 5 golden stars. And he said, loving the format of this podcast. It feels as if I'm sitting there with my friends just having a conversation and learning more about the role of OCR every time. Which is a really cool thing to say because Mark is a friend. And, you know, when we get together, that's typically what we're talking about a lot of times.
Pretty much.
So I'm glad it feels like that. And I hope when I listen, and before we started this podcast, that's kind of what I felt with the other podcast. And it's like, man, I want to be part of this conversation. And that's why we started this, so we could.
Yeah.
All right. The next one is from SGA Spartan, and they titled it Good Idea! And gave us 5 golden stars.
Yeah.
And said, great concept. Sound quality is very good also.
Nice.
And that's, you know, we strive for that.
Yeah.
Oh, and speaking of which, who said something nice about our quality recently?
Oh yeah, so I was listening to Matt B. Davis the other day on his podcast, and he said something very flattering about our sound quality. That it was incredible. I think that is the word that he used. But yeah,
He did use the word incredible.
So you listened to that episode?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I was listening to it on my way home from Baton Rouge. I was like, well, how about that?
I messaged him and said he made me blush.
That's awesome.
The next one is by Funky D 930, and it says, keep it up, and gave us 5 golden stars and said, I'm really digging your show. I love how accessible your show is. Your first show actually helped me to prepare for my first race. Thank you and keep it up. How cool is that?
Nice, I like it.
For Funky D's first race, I'm curious what it was. If you hear this, Funky D, send us a message on Facebook or email us at ocrtalk@gmail.com. Let us know what that first race was and how it went. I'd be interested to know.
I'd kind of like to maybe do that. I don't know. I'm just tossing around this idea in my head of and I think we kind of started to get there on Facebook when in the comments, whenever in the CTG athletes group, whenever we were talking about the upcoming race this weekend. So I'm like, how cool would it be to get like multiple people from other podcasts even to like jump on the show and make this collaborative episode? Yeah, that would be cool.
You know, Matt B. Davis and Will Hicks, they've done that multiple times. Not a ton, but they've done it a few times here and there. And it does seem to always turn into, I think, a good conversation.
Yeah, for sure.
What we're going to do in a little bit. Now, it is 4:10 right now, so it's not really a conducive time of the day to do so.
Right.
But I'm going to put up a Zoom meeting and throw out a link into that CTG Elite Athletes page and see if anybody hops on. If they do, then they can talk about the upcoming races this weekend with us.
That'd be cool.
But before we get there, a couple other things to go over. One, we got contacted by a guy, Chris Love. This is a guy, an older guy, who is writing, I think it might be released already, an OCR book. And it's basically an OCR book for beginners. Now, there's some information in there that could be used by anybody for sure. I think it's just an online, like a PDF book. It might be like $10 or something like that. But dude has a lot of information in there. Man, that dude jam-packed it full of stuff. So he does focus mostly on Spartan and actually goes through like, here's pretty much every obstacle they got. Here's what you need before the races. Here's what you need after the race. Like, he really dives pretty deep. So I think from a beginner's perspective, it might be a little overwhelming at first to just read that whole thing straight through before you go. But as you do your first race, do your second race, to kind of start picking up different little tips and things throughout the book. It's got some good stuff in it, man. He has a website, spartanobstacles.com/OCR book, OCR-book, spartanobstacles.com. You can pick it up there, check it out. So the reason he contacted us because he had a part in there about OCR podcast where he talked about, ORM and World's Toughest Podcast, and he had a page in there for us, which was real sweet. Other news that came about this past weekend, I believe, is Rugged Maniac sold for $10 million.
Goodness gracious. I can't help but think I can't help but think that their push to do so many races this year, was it them that was adding all those races and like all those all the different states?
You might be thinking of terrain.
Terrain. Maybe I was thinking of terrain. But they did add a lot of races this year to their schedule.
Yeah.
From last year. So, I mean, I can't help but wonder how long that was in the works.
Do you know the background of Rugged Maniac?
I do. Oh, they were on Shark Tank, right?
Right. So they're the ones that they sold to Mark Cuban, which I guess is just, one of the guys on there. And so I think they got $1 million for 25% of the business. Mm-hmm. And it just sold for $10 million. So obviously dude made money on it. But I don't know. It's pretty cool because it means it's got to mean they're doing well, and it's got to mean that somebody else with money is interested in investing.
It'll be interesting to see how that company and the brand evolves, though, coming.
That is very true.
After that. Yeah. Because I hope it's not a Battle Frog type situation where they just get bought out and shut it down. Or maybe they'll rebrand. I don't know. You never know.
Yeah. That'll be interesting for sure. Keep an eye open for that. Okay. Let's get into NORAM. Dun 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 dun, or what?
How was that? Because I was living vicariously through you and April that weekend.
I thought about it, and I thought if I were in Anna's shoes and I was missing this race, I would probably, when I can't record because I'm too busy, I think I feel as sad as you may have when you missed the NORAM race.
I was especially sad whenever Sid said he was bringing some of the obstacles up there. And I was like, oh man, are you serious? But that was, I don't know how long that was in the works for, but I guess we found that out right after the battle race. So,
well, I think according to Sid that it came about pretty shortly before the race actually happened.
Nice.
I don't remember exactly why. You'd have to ask him, but I want to say he said that it wasn't long after that battle race that he actually got hooked up with, whoever he had been trying to contact throughout the past year or two.
Right.
And got it going, which is awesome.
That's so awesome. They had, 2 obstacles there.
I've heard the words battle race on, I think maybe Link Endurance and on Strength and Speed. So word got around that they got some good obstacles. So
yeah,
I know
Mo and Miles and Victor were talking about it on their podcast earlier this week.
Very cool.
I'm surprised how many pros gave up their bands on Triumph, on Dragon's Back.
Well, it freaks some people out, but in the rain, that rope swing at the end, I think, got people probably more. I'm going to say that people got more scared when it was wet because they were afraid of slipping and falling.
Right.
And the rope swing at the end definitely got more people too because, the rope's wet and slippery.
Right.
Which, if you get to a rope swing and you can't grip it, use your feet. Even if it's a swing across to something else, hook those feet in as you start swinging and you'll be good to go. A couple of things about Dragon's Back. When Blind Pete did it, he freaking did a flip over the bar, which was amazing. If you hadn't seen that video, go look it up. He jumps, his guy.
Joey McGlamory.
Yeah, so he gets ahead and tells him where it's going to be at. Now, I hear that he can kind of gauge distance based off his voice and stuff. Right. So he jumps, grabs the bar, and just spins over it before he jumps off of it. It's pretty phenomenal.
That was so awesome. He kind of chicken winged it.
Yeah.
He'll hold himself up there. Which isn't a bad idea.
Yeah. Now, even Mo was talking about how when he jumped into it, he felt like if he would have, because running up that mountain, if he would have planted his toes into the board, he would worry about cramping up or something.
And rupturing his Achilles.
Yeah.
Like how Michael Mark did.
I think he got the right idea pretty quickly to just plant your feet flat into that. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a good tip for any obstacle where the board is not flat. The more you can make your body perpendicular to that board, the better you're going to stay on it.
Yeah, because the more you're on your toes and you're just straining your Achilles, your chances of hurting your Achilles it just increases that much more.
Jump into that wall flat-footed and just hang on for dear life. Now, I've been thinking about it. One of the things that people always worry about, if you fall backwards, you're going to fall into the scaffolding.
Right.
What if whoever made that obstacle, Sid or whoever, anybody else that's making that type of obstacle, put some of those gym pads on that framing? You know how you see at the back end of a gym wall?
Yeah.
So that if you run into the wall, you don't smack your head straight into it.
Right.
What if they had that just tied down to the framing? I wonder if that would...
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. It's really not a bad idea. It's a good improvement to make the obstacle a little safer. Just because it does happen, and I've seen it. I saw it happen this weekend. Just people that there was one that I think she had the bar, and she had landed on the wall, but her hand slipped off, so she slid down the wall. And as soon as you go falling down the wall, it's kind of a steep incline. It's like a 45-degree wall. So yeah, as soon as you hit the ground, you still have a lot of momentum, so you fall backwards. And I think it was her back that hit the pole or something like that. Something like that wouldn't be a bad idea to add to it, at least just to wrap around the pole, or even just to mount up there, I guess.
Right.
Just to have something to break your fall a little bit.
At the very least, the way they pad the poles in a kid's play place.
Right, exactly.
That would help. Obviously, it's going to increase the price on making that obstacle, but when it comes to safety, there's only so many times you can let people get hurt before you have to change something about it.
Right. So yeah, on that one, actually, we had that obstacle at this past weekend. There was a NTB mud run in Picayune, Mississippi. It's a smaller little mud run for charity. But yeah, Sid's obstacle was set up there too, right before the end. And so my daughter ran, after I ran the competitive heat, my daughter ran with Sid's two daughters, and they came to Triumph. And if my 12-year-old can do it, I mean, she was up there for a while, but she finally jumped and she did it. And it's like, she was so happy that she did it. Whenever she got to the other side, she was just like crying tears of joy because she was like, that was so much fun. So yeah, if my 12-year-old can do it, yeah, anybody can.
And it's not that it's a hard obstacle. It's really not. It's just a mental game.
Yeah,
but
it's more mental.
I do really feel strongly about, if you're making an obstacle, you need to prepare, because there's somebody's gonna mess up and break themselves as bad as possible. So you have to prepare for people that fail.
Yeah, guaranteed. I mean, you have people that fall off the 6-foot wall. So
right.
You have to prepare yourself for anything and everything that could possibly happen.
The event as a whole was freaking. It was awesome. I'm super pumped and glad that I went. And not only did I have good races, like I felt really great about my times.
It's awesome.
The weather was perfect for my races because my heats went, and literally as I crossed the finish line for the 15K, it started sprinkling.
Wow.
And I was like, man, I'm glad I'm off the course. For the team race, of course, that made for an even more exciting time. And people weren't slipping and sliding as much as I thought they would be, but it was still pretty messy and wet. I only had to do a couple of obstacles during the team race. Now, this is another interesting thing on the team race. When they started letting the pros go, and there is no age group for the team race, just because I think the small amount of people that run it. Mm-hmm. So there's just pro and open. And from the beginning, they had volunteers drying Lagaff, the one that's the teeter-totter poles.
I heard about that.
Yeah, and they also put some sports tape around it too, so you actually had something to grip on, because a wet metal pole that's vertical is about near impossible to hang on to.
Yeah.
And it really helped, and I love that they did that, because it kept the race being a race instead of just who can do the stupidest, wettest obstacle first. But so even in wet weather, it was nice. It was really cool. I love that they make those kind of changes during the race, and that they're real just in tune with, how can we make sure that the failure percentage is what we want it to be.
Right.
They really focus on that a lot.
Rain is a pretty good equalizer as far as, if you have the skill and the grip strength to make it through a wet obstacle, that's great. But whenever it's just the weather is just relentless and it's an open heat, so you've already got your competitive heat out of the way. I mean, they were talking about that on Link Endurance too. About, is that okay to just start drying off? Is that fair? Like, is that something that you would want them to be doing during your race? I think if I was running open, I'd probably appreciate it. I mean, if I'm running competitively, that might be a different conversation. But if I'm just running open, then I think I'd kind of appreciate that effort.
Well, I did run. We ran, me, Juan, and a guy, Mark. We ran in the pro waves, and the pros, they're still running for money. The first place team gets money, and like I said, I think that it made for a better race rather than just being who can get lucky first through
Right.
a stupid obstacle. So I really appreciate that they did that, and I like that. I don't see anything as it being not fair, because they did it from the beginning. They did it as soon as the pros started.
Mm-hmm.
So every time somebody went through, they wiped it down. And you can ask Mo how diligent they were, because he was one of them doing it.
Yeah. So it was fair for everybody. It wasn't just
Right.
whenever the volunteer had time.
Yeah. And Mo said he learned to be a good pole dancer, so if you need to hire him, he's available.
It's gonna be a side job.
Now, after the team race, now one thing I'm not going to do with this podcast is go through all the obstacles that they had and explain them all. For those who haven't heard them yet, go listen to Link Endurance, their podcast about their episode about NORAM Strength and Speed, their episode about NORAM, and then come in this next weekend. Actually, Obstacle Running Adventures, their previous episode about NORAM, they're about just Friday and Saturday, they talk about some obstacles. But then coming this next weekend, they're going to release interviews that I did with Mike and Caitlin. And so me and April ran the charity race with Mike, and afterwards we had dinner. And then after we ate, he broke out the mic and we had some interviews, and it was really cool. And those guys, Mike and Caitlin, are super cool. Super pumped about getting to hang out with them again in World's Toughest Mudder, hoping that we can get them in a tent next to us, in a spot next to us.
We could have like the OCR podcast, bro.
Yeah. So we did the charity race, and then we did during those interviews, we talked about a lot of the stuff. So during the charity race, we still did quite a few of the obstacles, and we talked about all the ones that are in there on Mike's podcast. So check that out to hear all of those. And also, I posted a video on my personal page that showed some of the obstacles that I did. April, during the 15K, went up the mountain and filmed me a little bit. So Jason Dupree, check out my personal Facebook page for that. But then I posted during the charity race, so a lot of stuff of April and Mike doing the obstacles. Now, this was exceptionally cool because April, this was the first time she ever did a legit race. She had done a foam fest. She's done a foam fest, which has inflatable obstacles, but this is the first time really doing monkey bars and stuff like that.
That's so cool.
And you'll see from the video that we posted on the OCR Talk page that she did awesome. From a first timer perspective, she did not expect to be able to hang from stuff and do the rope climb, but she got it. We gave her, just a little bit of instruction, and she took it and was able to do a lot of stuff. Very cool.
That's so cool.
Hopefully April can be some encouragement to some other people, because if somebody who doesn't think they can do it goes out there and just gives it a shot and is able to accomplish more than they thought, same could be true for you.
Definitely. That's awesome. Is she completely hooked now, or not quite?
Not the racing itself, but she has been super intrigued with starting something video related for media, videos for OCR related stuff. So she got something in the works.
Awesome.
That we're not gonna mention exactly what it is yet, but she's been making a page and some graphics, doing some graphic design for her logo and whatnot. So pretty
awesome.
Cool. I did all 4 events. I did the 3K, 15K, team challenge or a team race, and then the charity race.
Mm-hmm.
By time I finished the team race, carrying the farmer's carry, the little grocery shopping bags with
Oh,
sand in them.
yeah.
Carrying those down the hill destroyed my elbows, I think,
Really?
just because it's so much, trying to run down the hill with those things is like yanks on your arms.
Right.
And I've had a tendency in the past to get kind of like a tendonitis in my elbow from doing long events or multiple events in a row. And so I think that kind of started to happen. So for the entire charity run, every time I would do an obstacle and get off of it, my elbow would kind of ache. So I think probably next time I probably won't do the charity race too, because it was killer on my body. I was just wiped for the next couple of days.
But it was for a good cause.
Yeah. But I would not go again and not do at least the 3K, 15K in the team race, because those are just so much fun. And I just feel like if you go and don't do that, you're missing out.
Oh, so close to signing up this week. I'm so close.
Oh, you didn't do it?
No, I couldn't pull the trigger. I have commitment issues.
Well, hopefully it'll happen.
I'm gonna find myself like 5 months before the event, like finally signing up.
Well, who knows? Hopefully they'll have a good discount by then, or at that point.
I'm sure. I'll wait till Black Friday or something.
Yeah, that mountain was high, man. First 2 miles was all the way to the top.
You PR'd your 5K after coming home from that, huh?
Yeah,
I
so
saw
just
that on
today,
Strava.
I don't know what the heck happened. I went out
It's
and I
that
was like,
mountain air, I'm telling you.
well, I was teaching an online class today, and I was like, if I'm gonna run today, I gotta get it done. I gotta go out and just make it happen and get it done quickly so I can get back and shower and eat and all that. And so I went out with a purpose and started going, had a pretty good pace, like 7:30 pace, and I was like, there's no way I'm keeping this up. And after about the first 10 minutes, I backed it off to something more sustainable, and I was at about an 8-minute pace for the rest of the way. And like I said, there was a monkey bar in the middle, and I've been telling myself I want to start not practicing, but actually in races, practicing running into obstacles. Not stopping for a breather, but going straight into them and straight out of them.
Yeah.
And the reason I don't do that is because, like a lot of people, when you're out of breath, that taxes your grip and it makes it harder to hang on longer. So you get worried that you're going to be more likely to let go.
Yeah.
Now, I feel pretty darn comfortable with my grip on most obstacles. Pegatron's a different story. I'll still need to rest for that. But,
yeah.
Even during the charity race, after it was raining, I was still able to get through everything. The only thing that I fell off of on my one try was Stairway to Heaven, which I've also thought about some different techniques to help get through that, because I know it's possible in the rain.
Yeah. And I think Miles talked about that on their podcast too, because they were also talking about getting in through the obstacles and really not wasting your time like walking up to the obstacles and kind of whenever you're done, just kind of walking off. And I've heard this from several different athletes as well, is whenever you're approaching the obstacle and you've got a good comfortable pace going, but your heart rate is still up, you do want to bring your heart rate down enough to where your movements are still efficient and you're not trying to catch your breath as you're doing the obstacle.
Yeah.
Because then it'll just defeat the purpose. So you do want to bring your heart rate down before you attack the obstacle, but then that will give you enough energy stored to kind of just take off running whenever you're finished with it.
Yeah, and I think you can do that without actually walking, just slowing down your pace.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think I really just need to trust my body. If I feel like I can do it, just because I'm taxed and gassed doesn't mean that my body's going to fail me.
Right.
Like it might, and that's that's kind of what I want to put into practice this weekend and see how it goes.
Yeah, and I think that's what I find is for me anyway, because I like more of the longer races, but for me that's what I find difficult about the shorter races and the sprints, because I mean those short fast races, you're redlining the whole way, and the little time that you take to get your heart rate down before you come up to an obstacle, that could really hurt your time or your placement if you're really trying to compete.
Right. But at the same time,
you really want to push yourself because it's such a short race that
right?
if you sleep on it, you're just done.
Yeah.
So I think I've had the same struggle. It's hard for me to make that connection because I just like kind of slow grinding it out, you know.
Yeah. And my thought is if I somehow happen to find myself in a contention place, then I probably will be a little bit more careful.
Yeah.
But if I'm in the normal kind of middle of the pack road that I typically am, I'm just going to go for it, man. Just try it out and see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, like this past weekend at that NTB mud run, as far as like females go, I had a pretty good placement the whole race. I didn't take off, off the starting line at a crazy sprint, and I was still recovering and everything. And I mean, I was pretty happy with how I did. I kind of tried. Like
Nice.
you, I was trying to do the same thing, like bring down my heart rate, but not stop running. But then they had simple enough obstacles to where, they had walls and monkey bars and everything. Their monkey bars did have some spinners though. But, whenever I'm coming up to an obstacle, I'm like, okay, I know how to do this obstacle. I just have to trust myself. So I just know I have to trust myself that I know how to do it, and I know how to do it efficiently enough to where I can just get up on the obstacle and go. And I almost have to get on it quick enough to where I don't give myself time to think and to psych myself out and to even think about, oh, but I could slip and fall. Well, I could slip and fall on anything.
Yeah, and we've been doing this long enough to where that's kind of where we are. But
Yeah.
for people that are still getting started and still getting used to their grip and strengthening that, I really wouldn't recommend that. I would say, do that in training, but get yourself comfortable with the obstacles before you really start trying to fly into them and fly out.
Yeah, definitely.
One thing that was really cool was after the event, so Sunday night, they had a post-race, post-event get-together. And it was open to anyone. Now, at this point, most people are trying to travel home, so it wasn't a big crowd, but I went and found that it actually turned out to be mostly people that were working the event. So when I got there, saw like Brenna, Sid was there, Adrian Vigianato wasn't there. He was already traveling to something else.
The next thing.
But a lot of people, like I got to meet, like Margaret Schlachter was there, the guy that runs the City Challenge obstacle course, the guy that runs OCR series in Europe, the guy that was the race director, does the Green Beret Challenge stuff.
Oh, Mark Ballas. Yeah.
Yeah. So got to meet a lot of cool people and was really glad that I stayed and went to it. It was really, really neat.
Good little networking opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sid was super cool. He was introducing me to everybody because he had been, working with them all weekend. And he's like, "Hey, this is Jason from OCR Talk." He's a cool guy.
He's like our biggest fan.
Yeah. Well, he does a good job, and I appreciate him.
Yeah.
It's a good event. It really was. I mean, they just put on a quality event, and I know I've thought of a couple things here and there afterwards that could have been better, but like for the most part, I couldn't pinpoint something and be like, yeah, this should have been better.
Overall experience was positive.
Yeah, overall experience was very positive, and nothing really stood out. I think they had some issues in the background that they had to deal with, but they did it well enough that I didn't notice. Like one of the things was Lagaff that didn't get there on time, so they ended up having to go buy all the materials and just build it from scratch.
Oh gosh.
Which is pretty impressive. So before we talk about this weekend is Conquer the Gauntlet in Tulsa, and it's a team race. So you guys are coming up,
Yep.
and we're racing together, and it's going to be awesome. But Conquer the Gauntlet just recently announced next year they're doing multi-lap races. So in their regular race, they're going to have a multi-lap wave, and they're calling it Continuum. So Conquer the Gauntlet Continuum is the multi-lap version. So just like Warzone, just like Toughest.
BFX.
Yeah, BFX. So I'm very interested to see. I mean, I'm already signed up. I'm already signed up for Dallas for next year. So very interested to see how they do it and if there will be any penalties or like what's the options if you can't do Pegatron. Yeah, so this weekend is Conquer the Gauntlet Tulsa. It's going to be, I think, their second team race of the year, unless they had one in Wichita already. I forget. You're going to have the regular race on Saturday, team race on Sunday, And at the same time, Evan Prepares is doing his Endure the Gauntlet thing. So he's going to be running 48 hours over the weekend, start to finish basically for the race weekend. And he's invited everybody to run a lap or two with him. And you sign up for, I think it was like $45, and you get a medal and a shirt and stuff, and it all goes to charity. So pretty cool. I am partaking in that myself.
The team race, I'm doing the Endure the Gauntlet as well. I had bought Daniel a registration for the individual race. And I'm actually going to, I want to volunteer during the individual races. So I'm planning on that.
Cool.
And yeah, doing the team race and then doing Endure the Gauntlet at night with Evan as well. Maybe not so late at night as you, but yeah. We found an Airbnb that's not actually too far away. It's like maybe 15 minutes away from the venue. So yeah, I'm probably going to, I don't know, maybe run about 8, 9 o'clock, something like that.
Right on. That sounds great. And I do believe the rules this year say that at least 2 people on your team have to race.
Yeah, I think it was 2
Saturday.
or 3 people.
So as long as I know me and Kevin and you, and Daniel will be. So
yeah, that was his little birthday present that I got him this year.
My plan is to run a lap with Evan at 11 or 12, somewhere around there, but then do it again on Saturday night. So I'm going to basically try and kill myself this weekend. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But really cool how you can do that. Like you can just register once, pick a time, but really he's like, run with me as much as you want to.
Right. Yeah, and it's for a good cause. And I figured it's just good practice for World's Toughest. I gotta get ramped up and, start really training for that again now that I'm feeling a little bit better.
Yeah. And, practice running with a headlamp in the cooler weather. Well, it probably won't be that cool.
Yeah, no, it won't be
cool, but
very cool. But at least in the dark with the headlamp and the strobes and everything like that. So
when you're a little more tired.
Right.
I got a gimbal. Do you know what that means? What that is?
A what?
A gimbal. A gimbal. I think I could be pronouncing it wrong. Is you see the people that run around like the OCR tube guy runs around with his phone or a GoPro or something on this little stick.
Yeah.
It's not a selfie stick. It's just
it kind of reminds me of a selfie stick though.
it does a little bit, but what it does is it really stabilizes the phone or whatever's on there way better than you ever could with your hands. So when you can move your hand all around and the phone will stay exactly where it's at. It's really super cool. And I'm pretty sure it's what Spartan is using for their filming whenever they're running after the athletes. And I thought those things were going to be super expensive. And I looked them up and they have some that are super expensive, but they have others that are only $100. So I got not the cheapest one, but I got a cheaper one to try out, and I'm going to bring it with me. And at least on one of those laps, I want to take it out and do some filming, during the night run and get some shots. And it'll give me something to do during the day after the race. That's right. I need to do it Friday night so I can do it after the race on Saturday. But it'll give me some cool shots and I can edit it on my phone and make a little video for the Endure the Gauntlet thing.
Nice. So you're running Friday night then?
Yeah, my plan is to run, get there, run Friday night, then race Saturday, then run Saturday night, and then race the team race on Sunday.
Nice. Yeah, I don't know if we're going to get there early enough for us to do anything on Friday.
Oh, you're planning on just running Saturday night?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, probably just running Saturday night. And I don't know, I may end up starting earlier just so I could get more miles in, more laps in. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see how I'm feeling.
Conquer the Gauntlet, they released the map. Got some interesting things on there. An obstacle called Tiger Trap. I don't know if I know what that is.
That's a new one.
They've listed out Tiger Trap. Elephant Graveyard is the newer one with the horizontal pipes to vertical pipe traverse to horizontal pipes. Sherwood Forest, I imagine, is just a run through some trees, possibly. I'm not sure. Nothing But Net. I'm not sure what that one is either.
Big Cargo Net?
Possibly. Smooth Criminal. That's the one with the ninja quintuple steps at the beginning to traverse slanted wall, I guess. Slip wall traverse. That one's pretty cool. Cliffhanger, I feel like, is an old one that they hadn't had in the past couple of years. Like some boards, basically, multiple 2x8s put together, and you have to kind of just shimmy across them,
Huh.
across them, not across. But the list has 4 mystery obstacles. Now, more than likely, one of them will be Pegatron. One of them will be Tarzan Swing, but I don't know what the other 2 will be. So that's really interesting. That would be hilarious if the Tarzan Swing was right after Torpedo, right at the end, because Torpedo, you slide into the water,
Right.
get your hands all wet.
That's basically what they had us do at my first Conquer the Gauntlet. I think we had to like run through water, and then I think they did have Stairway to Heaven right after the torpedo. I was like, that's just wrong.
Yeah, Stairway is probably another one of the mystery obstacles.
More than likely.
So that's 4 of them. I mean, that's 3 of them, but there still leaves one more to, I don't know what it would be. They've posted at one of the previous races, they had a big tarp or something around one of the obstacles. And it was probably the rig, the Tarzan Swing rig. But a lot of times, like when I get to the race, I want to see it beforehand, so you can kind of think about what your, which hand's going to go first, how you're going to attack the obstacle. And they're making it to where you can't do that.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting. And the biggest thing about Conquer the Gauntlet is people say, how should it be that hard? Do they really need to keep up in the game like that, make it the obstacles where hardly anybody can complete them? And because different companies have their different niches, I think it works. Because Conquer the Gauntlet is not, it's like us saying, yeah, we're the podcast that doesn't record that often because we have other things we have to do. That makes it to where it's like, all right, cool, that's your thing. Matt B. Davis is like, hey, I'm the podcast where I don't edit anything. Cool, that's your thing. Well, that's Conquer the Gauntlet's thing, is that they, they're going to make it hard as crap so that when you go to another race, that if you can do their stuff, then you're going to conquer anything else. And it's true.
I mean, they do market it as the hardest 4 miles. So, and I would have to agree, because just that one race experience that I had, I mean, I had a blast. But yeah, the obstacles were very challenging. Usually at some races, you'll have your standard obstacles where jump over a wall, crawl under this, carry that, whatever. But then you'll have like maybe 1 or 2 obstacles that are like, okay, now we're going to test your grip. Now we're going to test your balance. Now we're going to test this. But Conquer the Gauntlet just takes all that and says, okay, we're going to test every single skill and see how you perform, and good luck.
And it actually says on the map, it says 4.3 miles, which is typically supposed to be normally 4, but it's a little longer. And be prepared for the team race, going to be even longer than that, because they'll add in some extra team obstacles, probably make it around 5 miles, if not more.
Interesting. God, I hope I don't sandbag y'all. I'll get in a good warm-up run the night before.
Yeah, I mean, I might be worn out myself, and I'll be the one sandbagging. We'll see. But yeah, it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's those team races. It's just like everybody, even the pros say about NORAM or OCR World Championships. The team race is the best part of the weekend because everybody's there together. And, even with this, you're there with 3 other people, but then you've got other teams coming by you or, near obstacles with you. And everybody's talking and laughing. And it just makes it for a really good time. It's a different aspect of the sport. It's something that in races like Conquer the Gauntlet, you don't really get typically. At open waves for Tough Mudder, you get that all the time, but you don't really get that in the more competitive races. So
this weekend I was trying to. There's a lot of people that didn't do this as often as we do, obviously. So there was a lot of times during the competitive wave whenever I'm just like, try it this way. It's easier this way. I'm like gonna give tips to my competitors or something. But I mean, yeah, you don't see that in the individual competitive heats. So I think this is gonna be my first experience with a team oriented obstacle race.
Nice. That's cool. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. You're gonna love it.
Because I was supposed to do the Dallas Beast last year with a team. We had already assembled a team. It was gonna be me and a couple other girls. from Battle, but then they canceled the team race. So there that went. We should try doing this Zoom thing again. Maybe on not such short notice.
Yeah, the idea of having other people just hop in a meeting came up out of nowhere because Kevin Harkins posted a random post saying,
right.
"Hey, who's talking about the race this weekend?" And we're like, "Ah, cool, we're
that's a
recording
good
today."
idea.
So we'll definitely have to try that again sometime.
Yes, and I know Daniel wants to explain his mud debacle.
So be sure to check out Obstacle Running Adventures podcast coming up this next weekend. He'll probably release it on Monday or something. I think is what he usually does. Check that out to hear about our adventures with them, and check out our recap, hopefully sometime next week. Other than that, let's go have some fun this weekend. Oh, I'm going to bring some shirts. I've only got larges and extra larges and maybe a couple of smalls, but I'm going to bring some more OCR Talk shirts to give away at the Tulsa race. So if you're there and you want a shirt and you're not medium, let me know.
Sorry for all you medium people.
All right. Thanks again for listening. Go be cool and go practice body awareness on swinging obstacles. That is so huge and so important. Body awareness and momentum.
And grip.
Well, grip too, but you should have already been doing that.
So if you're just now training grip, you're already late to the game.
All right. Take it easy. See you this weekend. See you Friday evening.
Yeah, come say hi this weekend at the race too. If y'all are in, where are we going to be this weekend? Tulsa.
Look out for the flag. It'll be up and around.
Yeah, it'll be somewhere, or Jason will have it painted on his body somewhere.
All right. Don't forget to follow and listen and talk, and then that's it.
Bye, y'all. Declan, you want to say hello?
No.
Bye.